Hi, and welcome to the CAA show. My name is Juggi Bhasin, and CAA is Conversations and Analysis. This is a place for meaningful conversations without the tu-tu me-me that we hear all around us. In this show, I bring you the real story behind the story, the big picture behind the picture, the cracks concealed behind the plaster. Yesterday, a drone hit an Indian Air Force base in Jammu. We all think that it originated from where else but Pakistan. To my mind, the drone carried with it two messages. The first message is that we, as India, still have some way to go before we have made our security grid foolproof, our military base perimeters secure. That is, of course, work in progress. Unlike the alarmists in the opposition and even some security experts, I'm not too worried about this breach. As I said, this is work in progress. With the infusion of more funds and technologies, we will get there. But even then, can the outer perimeter be fully breach-proof? We all remember that only recently, some Russian-made Katyusha rockets fired by Hamas evaded the Iron Dome shield and killed civilians in Israel. In Israel. And Israel, we all know, is among the top 3 countries when it comes to deploying cutting-edge military technologies. It also has a strike-back response against the enemy that is among the most aggressive in the world. And yet, Hamas got their rockets through. So my point is that in the Indian context, this kind of a breach can happen in the future. So we don't really need to become hysterical about it. The second message is of even more interest to me. And that is because by resorting to this drone strike in Jammu, I believe that the Pakistanis are completely, I repeat, completely rattled. And why are they rattled? You could ask me. Let me explain. After the repeal of Article 370 in the Valley almost 2 years ago, today the entire Pakistani strategy is in shambles. The Pakistani leadership had allowed themselves to believe in their own propaganda and their own fiction that after the repeal of Article 370, it would only be a matter of time before an uprising took place in the Kashmir Valley. They had assumed that stone pelters, local terrorists from the valley, and daily street protests would bring down the local administration in the valley to its knees. The Pakistanis were so convinced of the scenario that they launched a worldwide campaign against what they call Indian occupation. Mr. Imran Khan was busy giving interviews to everyone who cared to listen to him, raising the specter and the potential threat of a nuclear war. Campaigns were held in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, urging people to cross the line of control and march towards the Kashmir Valley. The din raised by the Pakistani establishment reached the heavens, as it were. But then, what happened? Let me talk about that. To understand what is happening in the Kashmir Valley, I must take you back almost 30 years. What is happening in the Kashmir Valley today is what happened in Punjab between 1991 and 1994 when KPS Gill took over. The terrorists were ruthlessly neutralized then as they are being neutralized now in Kashmir. Indulging in terrorism, aiding and abetting it has become a costly business. The other thing that is happening then and is happening now is that the ordinary citizen is so sick and tired of the violence that they have welcomed the weeding out of terrorists from within their ranks. The Pakistanis have been forced to realize that besides the usual suspects, screeching, loss of freedom, internet connectivity, and the electoral process, the ordinary Kashmiri has accepted the changes brought in by the clampdown, if not welcomed them. Militancy has fizzled out in the valley and the security forces have gotten on top of the situation. If anyone needed proof of that, it came when the crisis with China erupted at Galwan Valley and other sectors in Ladakh. The Kashmir Valley then went completely quiet. No support for the Chinese aggression came from the Kashmir Valley. The people, having secured their security and peace of mind today, are in no mood to give it all up for an external cause. The Pakistani strategy of provoking the ordinary Kashmiri to a point of no return has crashed. More ominously for them, they are left with hardly any credible human intelligence assets on the ground. The security forces have wiped out most of their sleeper cells in the valley, and not many in the youth are willing to pick up the gun. And only last week, as we all saw, the final blow to their well-laid plans was delivered, ironically, by the Gupkar alliance, which conveyed to the government of India that they were willing, if not desperate, to contest elections. The Indian government finally had the Pakistanis and their minions in the valley exactly where they wanted them to be. So, when human assets fail, what choice does a rogue nation like Pakistan have? It resorts to technology to fill in the gap. The drone attack by Pakistan is a crude technology countermeasure to bridge that gap. But the best laid plans of the Pakistanis have already gone awry. Now only one thing can make a difference. And those are the droning noises of our opposition creating the lie that our security situation is weak and that China and Pakistan have put us in a corner. I will have a full-fledged conversation on that issue, but in a later episode. Till then, keep watching this space. Goodbye and have a great day, everyone.